The head of Fields and Futures has a really interesting plan we decided to talk about over the holidays. Sports empowering kids to dream big. Took his own private fundraising for 44 fields in 15 schools, and the theory is fields and sports means grades improving, less dropouts, higher earnings, less prison population, less obesity, less homelessness, and he's made the number stick. It is quite an incredible opportunity. It's Oklahoma City, the project called Fields and Futures. It becomes a template for national stories all over. Tim McLaughlin, the CEO of the organization, Dan Colarusso, have a really, really happy holiday. Happy New Year. See you in 2017.
Happy New Year to you, Rick. Thanks.
And now, Tim McLaughlin. Philanthropy, something really special over the holiday, one city's dream that's turned into what's going to be a national template. And you heard it here first. McLaughlin family, Tim and his wife Liz, very interested in Fields and Futures. Before I could continue, the longest successful businessman involved with the University of Oklahoma, a very essential commitment to help build the city of Oklahoma City, and even more important, things that are going on with fields and schools and education and on and on and on. But we want Tim to chime in. Tim, why don't you give us your elevator speech about what Fields and Futures is and where it is today?
Well, the purpose of Fields and Futures is to grow participation in athletics. We feel that if we can get a kid on a team, then we can get them on a path to be successful. And we're running stats on that now, and that's proving out. We always had that hunch, but the fact now that is proving out is very exciting. And it really kind of boils back down to, well, let's provide them the facilities. Let's give them what the suburban schools have. They'll come out. It's a build it, they will come thing.
Yeah, but the build it and come they model always is high visibility at the end of the rainbow. It's interesting because people all over the world talk about building fields, trying to get kids to play on them. But it's not necessarily an economically viable proposition. And as a private sector entity, why is this so essential for you to do as an Oklahoman? You have matches with the school board you're involved with, the city, key sponsors as well. Oklahoma City certainly does it right. We know that from a variety of programs in their history. But give us some ideas into this business. And because this is a business show, give us some insight in how you're doing it.
Yes, it is. It's a difficult thing for a city to do, no doubt, due to the fact there's so many things pulling at the city, to the streets, to the bridges, to all that, and that of course gobbles up and the education system by itself. So we're pretty fortunate in Oklahoma. There's a lot of folks that are very proud of Oklahoma City, and there's been a lot of great things happen in this city. But one of the areas that we haven't done as great a job on is the education side of it. And what we found, if we can get, again, these kids on a sports team, well, they have to come to school, to go to practice. You have to make your grades to play in the game, and then there's a graduation rate side of things. So when you can go around and speak, have that conversation with business leaders in this community, and then realize it's your future workforce too, and the benefits of the fact that, hey, if you are a part of a team, you've had to learn to work with people in that huddle. You aren't moving that ball down that field if you aren't working with those folks in that huddle. So I think that's the attraction from the business side of things, is people realize this is a piece that gets graduation rates, that keeps life lessons, so it'll be employable, and also gets them graduated, and will be a positive on the economy versus a poll.
Do you have the numbers to share with us, a couple of bedrock metrics, graduation rates, dropout reduction, and how they're incrementally enhanced by Fields and all of the other goals that you put together as part of this overall package?
We just received some of that information from the school district that we work with, the OMC School District, and it was very encouraging. And bottom line, we sorted the 1,700 students out by student athletes versus non-student athletes. The student athletes had double digits more days in school. Again, you got to go to practice. They also had a higher GPA, a 2.82 versus a 2.11. We can talk about that later, but the fact that there's that big of a difference. But the big one that we're all striving for, the graduation rate for a student athlete is 99% versus a 77%. And you can talk to our district attorney and our police chief on what happens with those 23% that are not graduating.
Well, obviously a successful businessman, you're successful in Oklahoma, and what initially turned you on not only to think about Fields, but also what to do about it?
Well, that's a great question. We were, I think it's influences in your life, first off, and then we had an opportunity with the Wes Welker Foundation.
Yeah.
We're good friends with the Welker Foundation. They do some amazing work in our city, and they invited my wife and I to kind of go on a bus tour and look at some of the projects that they were looking at potentially funding. And when so we thought, well, that's a great idea. It's better than going to work for the day. I'll go hang out and enjoy that. But bottom line, after you started seeing the conditions of things and then having the life influences you have, you are sitting here looking at these facilities going, well, what kind of message are you sending to these kids? Because this is rocks and glass and cracked earth, and honestly, our horse pasture is in better shape than most of these playing fields were. And then knowing that, through our own kids, through our kids' teammates that we've seen, how if you're on a team, again, you got to make your grades. You got to you get leveraged. Those parents will leverage you to do the right things. Those teachers leverage you because they know those teachers can go tell those coaches that he's not on the right track. So, and then looking at what participation rates were in the City School District, which is our largest district in the state. It was below 30%. A national average for public school participation in athletics should be at 55%. So you take that 55% with less than 30%, you put it on our largest school district, there's 3,500 more kids should be playing sports than are not. And then you factor on top of that, all right, they have to come to school, you got to make your grades, and you're going to graduate, when you get that 99% deal. So that's what drives you when you look at the scope and what the end goal is there.
Most people get driven into a nice conversation, then leave it alone and tell anybody else they need to do fields. It's somebody else's responsibility. What drove you to this process to create fields, 44 of them at the current tally, about 15 schools, maybe more? This wasn't clearly just an afterthought, so this was the McLaughlin family getting into action mode. When did it start and how?
Well, I think we wanted to have the litmus test first. So back on that tour with the Wes Welker Foundation, we went to Jefferson Middle School. Wes had purchased $25,000 worth of football equipment, and which was fantastic. But then we went, well, let's go look at the field where they play on. So we walked out there, and our definition of a field is not what their definition was. And so we just kind of, and we built some soccer fields. We have some land where we live. We built some soccer fields for our kids so they could practice out there. So basically, I didn't have to drive everywhere, and everybody come to me. It worked out pretty good.
Right.
But so I had the know-how, and I fortunately have some very good friends that have a lot of heavy construction equipment and big hearts and know what that means. So we wanted to do a litmus test. We took Jefferson Middle School and wanted to find out, will this work? If we build it, will they come?
So that was about 2011, 2012, somewhere around there, right?
We kind of founded in 2011, started construction in 12.
Obviously, there's the proof of concept, but how do you get from there to where you are now? How do you scale it?
Well, scale is, it's good to have good marketing people to tell the story, get some good pictures, and really just capture the stories because the stories are there. After we finished that first complex, the district athletic director gave me a call in a meeting, and I couldn't take it. He's texting me and texted me over and over, and I thought, I have to excuse myself from this meeting. So I finally came out of the meeting, called him back, and he said, did you see those pictures I sent you? I said, no, I haven't got to look at them. Well, I'm at the Jefferson Middle School. There is a girls' soccer game going on, and there's a boys' baseball game going on. Do you realize I couldn't find a parking spot? Do you realize that these kids have not had home games in decades here? Yeah. Do you realize, look at the pictures of all the people on the sidelines rooting these kids on. Right. These parents have never been to this, or there's a good chance a lot of these parents have not been to this school. So now they're meeting the teachers, starting to get involved in the school. And that's kind of what ends up happening. So I remember getting off the phone after having that conversation with Keith Sinar and talked to my wife that evening. I said, I think we need to do them all. And she was gracious enough to say, I think you're right.
Yeah, well, both of you made a very positive combination. The school board is a partner. Just to give us an idea, you had to deal with, you raised the dollars for the capital side of this through fundraisers and benefits and charitable contributions. And school board also helps you with long-term maintenance. Cal Ripken in as a presenter and motivational speaker. But the primary focus around holiday time was to raise money for this goal.
That's correct. They once we've completed a project, then they do a $10,000 match. It's usually, it's about a $20,000, per complex, depending on the shape of the fields. But they also, on the build side of it, they're able to allocate. They have a bond for fence building, and so they do the majority of the fencing, anywhere from 70. Well, usually it's about a 75,000. And the other piece that I didn't really answer earlier for you too is it's fantastic to go. You need matches. You get that match that gives momentum. And there's we have one gentleman that gives us a $50,000 before we, at every complex we walk into, we've already got that 50,000 plus the 75 from the school district. So we're starting there, and then we start building off of that.
So what you're really doing is creating a template and creating a structure that's available not only to finish all the fields in Oklahoma City, but potentially in other cities in the state or even nationally, huh?
I think we bring in some national speakers, and that is a message each one of them has said. Bobby Bowden, Herm Edwards have both come in, and their comments were this plays out in every city in the United States, and could be doing things along these lines. And I'm sure there's lots of those type of things going on. But the fact is the need is there, no doubt.
Obviously, by way of full disclosure, we're sitting in a car outside of my hotel in a freezing Oklahoma City after hearing Cal Ripken in a lunch speech doing a dinner benefit that Tim and his wife are coordinating actually to raise the dollars about the benefits of this foundation and where you're going with it on the capital side. So no administrative cost. This is a labor of love, and the bottom line dollars basically go right to the construction of the fields, correct?
That's correct. That's correct. And we have that's nice too. I'm kind of a little bit of a salesman, but I'm kind of a lazy salesman. So I want the ultimate pitch, and so we were able to secure a grant that provides all of our administration and our marketing. So I'm able to tell a potential donor that every penny that you donate goes to the field project.
So in theory, the template is to get structured as you have a private business person like Tim McLaughlin in another city, and it would make some sense to see if the teams, leagues, sponsors, and others could follow a structure where it's kind of a matching formula. Local sponsors, their commitments from the local school board, and the politicians buying in, which ought to be easy if it looks like it's a guaranteed success. But this has really found private money that helped kickstart the recreation and school budget. Basically, every city in the country may need this, right?
Absolutely. It really becomes kind of a stone soup.
And ladies and gentlemen, this is interesting because you know my passion in getting the MAPS development plan going in 1993 in Oklahoma City with 9 separate sports, arts, and recreational facilities, and Mayor Ron Norick leading to Mayor Mick Cornett, who is now the head of the U.S. Conference of Mayors. We'll have more from him on an ongoing basis. But the next step in many of these projects is the unfulfilled promise of getting the maintenance done and the capital done. So what's been the hardest part of your process here, and you look back and have significant pride over the last few years, obviously?
Well, I think we're getting a little bit of a snapshot of that currently. Again, our goal is to have that 55% participation and be with the national average on the public school in the athletics. But then what we're finding is there was no little leagues in these areas of town also, which then kids were, the kids want to be a part of something. Right. So let's give them some positive options to be a part of. So I think that we've now started a kind of the inkling of things to come. We're in our second year of a youth league that we've created. So once we build the facilities in these neighborhoods, then there's about a 3-mile radius that kind of feeds into these facilities, that there's about 8 elementary schools, and we mainly build these in the junior highs and the high schools. So having that base that we can now base a league out of, we started that little league, and we're in that second year of that, and that has grown exponentially. So as we onboard another side of town, or that's got another 3-mile radius, then we plug that next 8 schools into the little league. And I think right now we've got 24 of the 55 elementary schools are a part of the league, and the numbers, we're starting girls and boys basketball here shortly, and that has gone from 250 last season to 500 this year. We're about to roll into spring soccer, and that will be boys and girls spring soccer. We had 500 last year. Science already coming. I think we're going to have 1,000. And again, we've only at 24 of the 55 schools, so we're anxious to get the next fields built so we can bring another 8 schools in and expand from here.
Tim, thanks very much.